All right, we're ready to rock and roll. Um, Welcome everybody to episode 12 of the Xtra Mile podcast. I'm super excited for today's show. You're in for quite a treat. My buddy Rob, we met at a Gary Vee event, and everything in life is like really serendipitous. We had a chance encounter, and we ended up going to dinner, like having conversation with a few other guys, and was really impressed by him. He ended up picking up the bill, which is usually my move. So I still owe him a dinner. But I'll let Rob get in here and tell us a little bit about who he is, where he's from, and then we're going to drop some gold today for you guys because this guy has been killing it on social media and with his business. So he's got some nuggets for you guys today.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it. Been able to make it happen pretty quickly. My name is Rob Clark. I own a company called Life and Newer, which represents the three core L's of life: leverage, legacy, and life, which the core vision is to master the 6 pillars of leverage, get the living free status so that you can do what you got to do for the rest of your life and build and leave that true legacy. That's really my life's obsession. I've created about 30 different ebooks. I post on social media every day on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch. Whatever. I got a whole team that does all the stuff for me and with me. I also have about 10 online courses, all of it 100% free of charge. Just go to lifeandnewer.com, register with your name and email. It sends you a user and everything else, and you just go into it, and it's my life's obsession to be able to teach people actionable content.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's the big part that hits home for me, Rob. Every time I see one of your pieces of content, I'm like, man, this is the stuff that people just aren't being taught, which I know had a lot to do with what you're doing and why you're doing it. So that's awesome, man. But there's several pieces of content that come up, and I actually had somebody share on their story the other day one of your videos, and I was like, oh shit, like I know this guy. You know what I mean? So you're definitely doing the thing, man, and it's awesome to watch. But great minds think alike. So when we got out there to the Gary Vee event, it was actually me and a buddy, and then Jeff, which actually, again, by chance, which is so cool because Jeff had just been in my hometown like 2 weekends before that and does business with one of my guys down here that does my website and stuff like that. So the world's small, man, but you meet people for a reason when you do. So that shit really, really means something to me. But watching your content, man, watching everything, I really appreciate it because, the agenda is pushed far too often for people to go to school, come out of school, go into debt by going to college, and then end up owing more money in college loans than they make on an annual basis in the job that they went to the college to get in the first place. So elaborate on that a little bit because you talk about that all the time, and let's talk about how this system just really is like hiding all of this valuable information that you're dumping on people every single day.
So the number one asset on the government's balance sheet is student loans. They're not going to take that off the balance sheet. We're talking about almost $1.3 trillion with a T that they're going to be charging on compounded interest over 20 or 30 different loans. That is going to take you 30 years. It's an amortized loan, which means it's just like a mortgage. And so the average student in 2020 is going to be paying $30,000 for just this year, right? That's going to turn into $90,000 over the life expectancy of their business. Now, what does college actually sell? What do they sell? They sell information. Well, last time I checked, we're in the fucking information age. And so there is nothing that any one of these books that college has that you can't learn from a mentor, an internship, or YouTube University. And that shit don't cost nothing but your time. And so for 90% of students that graduate, they don't go into the field that they actually got a degree in, either because there's not enough money, there's no one hiring, they don't have experience, or all the other stuff. And now student loans are starting to go, I got to make money because I got an $800 a month student loan bill coming down my neck. And so, I mean, I have people with master's degrees that are baristas, and I have people that dropped out of 8th grade who are worth $100 million. And so I'm like, wait, what the hell is going on here, right? And so I got a degree in business and an undergrad in accounting, and I didn't even try in college. And then when I got into the workforce, you know how many companies asked me for like my transcripts or the number of the counselor at my college when I graduated? None of them. None of them. I got the degree because I was the best man for the job. I got the job because I was the best man for the job.
100%.
Not because of the degree. They didn't give a shit at all. I got offered job opportunities being headhunted from other companies because I was a badass, not because I have a degree. And I hate the rhetoric that people feel like when they go to college that I have to learn nothing else. That I got my degree, I'm entitled to $100,000 income, and that I learned this. I have no life experience. I'm green between the gills, but I'm 23, 24, 25 years old, and they're not doing it. And I'm partnering with a kid who just turned 25, who owns a $30 million a year internet marketing business. And I'm just saying, like, there's a difference. And even if you look at like Donald Trump, right? What did he do 2 weeks ago? He got rid of degree-based hiring in the government and replaced it with skill-based hiring. That's 20 years obsolete, man. I mean, you should have done that 20 years ago, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. College is 500% overpriced, teaches 97% obsolete information, which gives you no value in this world today whatsoever. I mean, I met a person that is going to a college in San Diego, and they're going to be a digital marketer. They're learning how to digital market. There's a degree now for digital marketing, which digital marketing evolves ridiculously every day. How are you going to teach someone a digital marketer? So they've been going to school for 2 years. 2 years. I'm like, all right, what have you learned? They're like, oh, well, I'm still in my electives. And so they've paid $60,000 to learn stuff they already should have learned in high school, and that $3,000 is going to be around $200,000 when those loans mature.
Right.
And they learn skills.
Right. And we know that the attention on this, social media platforms and digital marketing in general is like a daggone stock market, because, one thing's really effective one year, it's not going to be quite as effective next year, or it's not going to be as good a bang for your buck the following year. So that 2 years, 4 years of college isn't going to matter, because by the time you got out a year later, it's all going to be different. The attention is going to be elsewhere. It's amazing that you're bringing this up, and I really, really let what you were saying hit home, because I'm actually, and I talked about this before we started the recording, but I'm actually hiring right now for a marketing director, right? And I interviewed somebody I've known for a long time who's very familiar with my story. Like, we're sitting down talking, and they said to me during the interview, they're like, listen, full disclosure, I don't have a degree, though. I want you to know that I don't have a degree. I said, you think I reached out to you because you have a degree? You think that was one of the, I have a GED that I got while I was in prison, and you know that. Like, who am I? Who am I to require a degree when I am running a business pretty darn well, I'd like to say, without anything but what you said, YouTube University, learning through business books that I bought used on Amazon in the first place. Like, I didn't get trained. I didn't get taught this. I learned it on my own, and I learned from the School of Hard Knocks, which has been far more valuable than anything else has for me. So the summary of that story is like, man, it's like, they expected me to require a degree, but you knew my story. You knew I had nothing but a GED that I got from jail and self-learning. So it's
a mindset. It's
I know, man.
It's the rhetoric that had been taught to your grandparents, and that was taught to you talk to your parents now, right? And then your parents are teaching you the same shit. I'm like, bro, we're in the information age. The shit that worked for your parents ain't gonna work for you, and it definitely ain't gonna work for your kids.
And what's crazy is we should know that, because for a long time, like our whole childhood, we're taught not to talk to strangers, right? We're taught to stay in the yard, right? And then we get put into sales positions and marketing positions where we got to talk to everybody. And you don't think that there's self-limiting beliefs that stops us from going and talking to these people? We've been told our whole life not to talk to strangers, So there's a ton of,
you don't make no money.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Big chunk of this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to talk to strangers, man. You got to talk to them, you know?
Yeah. I want to go back
So,
to what you were saying a second ago about basically you were talking about it ain't who you know, it's who knows you, which I was really like struggling with about a year and a half ago, because outside of my construction company, I also own a company that's called Master Networks, and it's basically a relationship-based networking business. And I own the region. I don't own the company, but I own this region.
yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. And so what's really cool about that is I really do believe in the power of the relationship, and how, like, you know, if somebody trusts and knows you, they'll recommend you. But for the first time ever since, you know, we've been able to get on video and blast it to thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people, we're creating rapport and relationship with the people on the other side of the camera. Even if we're not able to hear them, feel them, they're getting to know us. When they see us, they trust us. They're not afraid of us. They're not afraid to talk to the stranger because we're not a stranger. They can walk right up and talk to us. So it is amazing how that can impact everybody. Elaborate on that a little bit, and how, you know, going on and creating this attention through social media and the content development can impact and have that kind of an impact on your followers and your audience.
So in the 6 pillars of leverage, which are money, time, technology, attention, relationships, like you talk about a lot, right? And then your own mental resourcefulness, right? It all starts with resourcefulness, but other than resourcefulness, the second best thing that makes you successful as an entrepreneur is attention, okay? And it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you. That's the main platform. If you look at like Gary Vee, if you look at how Gary Vee has like 50 million people following him on social media around the world. Do you think he knows 50 million people?
Fuck no.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So how many people do you come up to Gary? Gary has absolutely no idea who they are, and are ready and willing to buy his products, to buy his wine, to buy his K-Swiss sneakers and everything else, right? It's just called it's virtual relationship building, right? Being your authentic self. See, the problem is people want to be scripted on social media, and people feel that, you know? And so being your authentic self, and also trying to relay a message that can be touched by other people, just by being yourself, just relay your own message and how it affected you. I guarantee the people that are watching it, a good percentage of them will say that affected me the same way.
Right.
You know, I do now. I took my kid downtown to Salt Lake. We went to the Gateway Mall, and I was wearing my Lifepreneur shirt. I rep the brand every day. All my TikToks all have Lifepreneur shirts. All my content has Lifepreneur shirts. Exactly. Rep the brand 100%, right? And so I went downtown. We're at the food courts. I was buying them some school clothes and stuff like that. And I get like 50 kids, like just like ransacked me while I'm trying to order a slice of pizza with my son, and be like, yo, your reality check on TikTok, you know? And I was just like, dude, these are like my future, you know, clients and everything else that I'm going to be working with in 5 or 10 years. They all signed up for the mentor program. It's all 100% free of charge. And they're like, dude, I love all your content. I listen to all your podcasts. I absorb and eat everything else. You woke me up. I'm more money motivated now. I learned that the money game is not the way they teach us. You know, having you become, you know, an employee is only one of the 4 sectors of money, right? But it's the only one that's teach because it's the most profitable one for the government.
Yep.
Right? Somebody who works from the age of 20 to 65, 45 years will give 20 years of 100% of their money to the government.
And not ask no questions.
No, and I want to, and then they'll also blindly give 3%, 10% of their income on top of that money to a retirement account or a bank that gets to use that money at the rate of inflation. So just because you see your money go from like 100,000 to 5,000 over 45 years, doesn't mean that 500,000 isn't worth 100,000 25, 45 years ago with inflation, right? Rockefeller Rockefeller died, when he died, if you evaluate it today, it's worth over $680 billion that
Yep.
this dude was worth, right?
Yep.
Jeff Bezos' $170 billion is not equivalent to the $100 billion when Rockefeller died.
Not at all. Right.
It's called buying power, right?
Yep.
And so because we live in a fiat currency way, your buying power as an employee dribbles and shrinks. Did you know that in 1968, a burger flipper at McDonald's made $1.90 an hour? Do you know what that is equivalent in buying power today? $103,000 a year.
Really?
In buying power. So if you make less than $103,000 a year in 2020, you make less money than somebody flipping burgers in 1968.
That's bizarre.
Because your buying power has been eroded through inflation, right? And that's how they do that. Okay, so how much did a house cost in 1968? How much did that same house cost in 2020? We'll say that it's multiplied 10 times, right? But income in 1968, minimum wage was $1.90. Now it's only $7.25 in most states, right? And so the buying power is just how they get you. So inflation works better for people that are trying to play Monopoly in the real world rather than trying to do things the way you're quote unquote taught, so that you live a life of high stress and financial ignorance.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me ask you this too, Rob. So we talked about the college thing. Who is college for? Like, who is the right person for college? And and describe that person.
So like in my honest opinion, okay, college is 20 years completely obsolete. Okay, if college gave people 100% the answers, right? Let's just take a doctor, for example. People think doctors need to go to college, and doctors, if they don't go to college, I don't want a person that didn't have a degree do heart surgery on me. I'm like, if that was really the case, right? Then why do the doctors have to do a 5-year internship after they graduate before they can actually become doctors? You're telling me they learn more in books and in classrooms than they do in being an intern for 5 years, or being even a part-time paid intern before they're actually a full MD. Now let's just take a lawyer, right? Lawyers go to law school, they get a bachelor's degree and all these other things. If that was good enough, if that was actually good enough, why is there a state exam? And why do 50% of the people that graduate law school can't pass that exam to actually become a barred lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. I have engineers, web developers, coders that have no education at all, that would put 10 engineers to shame that do have degrees. Let me tell you something that I'm doing with my kid that maybe your audience or maybe yourself would want to do with your kids. I pay my kids $20 a book, okay? I buy the book, I select the book, and they have to read the book. And then they have to pass an oral exam by me because I've read the book, okay? And if they do that, they get $20, okay? Now, my son's been doing this since he was 10 years old. He's 13 now. By the time he's 18 years old, we set a goal together that he will read 1,000 different books, okay? 1,000 different books that will all benefit him. Have one golden nugget or more in the book, okay? And I'm going to pay him throughout those 8 years $20,000 plus probably another $20,000 for the books, okay? Now, people think that I should just discipline my son and punish him by making him read books. No, I financially compensate him for reading books. If he does something, does something bad or whatever, he has the option to lose his phone. I will never take the option away from reading books. He can always read books and still earn money while he's grounded. Now, the average college graduate has to take 80 classes. That's $100,000 in student loans and 80 books that they're pumping and dumping. Okay. So my son will have what's equivalent to 12 bachelor's degrees of education that he's getting compensated for. You read 80 books and paid $100,000 and are going to pay $300,000 back. My son has 12 bachelor's degrees and I paid it $40,000 and he still has the books. Who's smarter? 12 people with the same bachelor's degree or my son who's 18 years old?
Your son.
Does that make sense?
All day, every day. Yeah. I mean, like I said, man, that's how I got to the point to start my business, was all books that I read, and it eliminated that fear that, that I couldn't do it because, these people in these books are like, yeah, we didn't think we could do it either until we did it. And now we know. And that's the other thing. All right. So let's get to that, Rob. Like, so now we're so like, and I oftentimes think about this, right? Because in selling, you can believe so much in something. And then if you're not 100% transferring that enthusiasm and energy onto the next person, they'll take the information, but they're not going to be on board, right? So for us, and for you, especially with the success you're having, like all of this stuff seems like so common sense to you because you've learned it, you worked it, you've seen it work for you, and now it seems so easy and common sense. But what about the person that just isn't in this? He doesn't buy it. What do you do for that guy, and how do you really get them to understand that this isn't some pitched sale? We're not selling you on this. You don't got to write us a check. But we want you to understand that you can start your business. The same business you've been putting off for 10 years, 5 years, you can start that business. How does that conversation go when you have that?
The definition of insanity is doing the same shit and expecting a different result. If you want things about your life to change, you need to start with changing things about your life.
But they're almost ready, Rob. They're almost there. They're almost there, right?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Okay. Almost. I mean, like, if you look at the mountain, right? When we started our businesses, it was like looking off the cliff of a mountain, right? It looks intimidating. We have limiting beliefs. We have all this fear. There's all this cost that associates with it that we don't know how we're going to be able to find the money and deliver the value. We're thinking money over trying to deliver value. And so it's a consumer mentality rather than a value contributing mentality, right? And you have to go through those ass whoopings, right? And the one
whooped.
And I don't want people to think that I'm just like super successful and I never failed, or that I never got my ass whooped and I had partnerships that never screwed me over. And all of those things happened to me. I had 4 partners and none of them worked out. And I had a philosophy in my brain and it was constantly continually making me fail, right? And it wasn't until I knew I wanted to do this. I knew I wanted to be in this space. I knew I did not want to be a W-2 employee ever again, even though I can make millions of dollars running sales departments for big conglomerate nationwide brands and even global brands. But it wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go through that because I focused on my legacy way more than I could ever focus on the potential pain that I would go through at all. And so you have to love what I call your future self more than your present pain, right? And it's tough because people have spouses that don't support them. They have siblings that don't support them. You have friends that automatically don't support you. And so it is, the road to success is paved with lonely dead bodies that go back. And because the level of success, it's like here, everything the people you hang out with, the people that you associate with, right? You guys are all within one level. And so it's like you're either here below them or right above them. And then when you start becoming super successful, you're elevating yourself. And now you have 2 options. Option 1 is either you go back down and keep them as people, or option 2, you find new people that's at your level. And that's one of the reasons why I go to these events and I pay to be in the front row with the best and the brightest. And I meet people like Jeff, and I meet people like you, and I meet all these other cool people. And I buy dinner for them because I want to hear their story, because I want to build hopefully a lifelong relationship of people on that higher level, right?
100%.
You are who you surround yourself with.
Yep.
If you're going to hang out with dudes that make 50,000, don't get mad when you make 45 to 55,000, right?
Right. Yep.
Hang out with dudes that run $10 million companies, $20 million companies, $500 million companies. You're automatically going to be leveling up because you have to keep that relationship. They're not going to want to hold your hand and coddle you and give you a fucking participation trophy and say, good job on that single sale. They're like, no, where's my 25 other sales?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know? And so it's being selfish, but for creating the person you actually want to create. And if you don't know the kind of legacy, right? Legacy is my first one right here. Boom, right? Legacy. Okay. And if you don't understand the kind of legacy you want to leave in this world, then you're going to be like 98% of all the other employees in this world, that their only legacy is the debt that they don't have to pay because it's not in their name for their kids. And your kids can't even afford to have a decent funeral for you. And generational wealth is really just the generational brainwashing of you being an asset for the government rather than you being an asset for your legacy.
Correct. So I want to go back. There's a couple of things that you said that I 100% agree with. And there's actually one that might surprise you. I disagree with you. And it's only because of my own personal experience. But you also said what you want. You brought that up multiple times. I think it's extremely important for people to understand. Like, if this is for you, you better know that before you go down the road, because it's not for the faint of heart. Like, you have to be willing to put the work in. And that part, which Gary talks about all the time, that self-awareness, is extremely important, right? If you're built this way, then by all means take it on, become the gladiator and take it on, right? But if you're not, then that's okay too, because we're pursuing happiness. We're pursuing what makes us fulfilled, what makes our lives fulfilled. But don't go over here and say, oh, this makes me happy, I'm going to chill, I'm not going to work that hard, and then complain that you don't have the resources, because that's where it comes from.
So easy.
What's that?
Complaining is so easy.
Yeah, it is easy, but and that's the thing. Like, if you're complaining about it, then are you truly aware of yourself? Because if you're complaining about the situation, then maybe you need to really dive deep and see if you do want more from yourself than what you're putting in. Because those are conversations you have to have with yourself. The other thing you said that I really liked was, surrounding yourself with people that are either like-minded or exceedingly minded, right? Like, I always have a saying, like, and I can't take credit for it. I think Brian Tracy said it, but he said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You know what I mean? And because what's that?
Unless you're getting paid to be in that room.
Hey, that's a good point too. That's a good point. But even so, most of those people on stage are have the humility to know that somebody in that audience or somebody in that crowd knows something better than they do. You know,
Gary has these meetings all the time, right? And he's the smartest guy in that room, but he's being paid good, great money to be in that room. Okay. Yep. So only thing that I would add is, if you're the smartest guy in that room, you better be getting paid.
Yeah, I get that. I like that. The other thing you said was, like, when we first start our businesses, it could be very fearful. So for me, it was quite the opposite. You've heard my story. I was at the bottom of the bottom. So really, I had nothing to lose. My fear, I don't want to say my fear, but it became realer for me, became more real for me as I grew. And, family members came to work with us, and team members, and my team started to grow. And I realized how many people are counting on me beyond me, right? Like, that's the part for me where it really became like, wow, I really need to make sure this thing does what I set out for it to do, because other people are now counting on me. In the beginning, it was just me, and I didn't have nothing to lose. So I was like, let's go. But since then, now I'm starting to get that, that thing where it's like, okay, now I've got a lot of people counting on me, and I'm always constantly trying to make the right decision for so many other people and so many other people's homes and households that could be impacted by a mistake I make. So It is huge, man, and it's big. But in the very beginning, it was like, all right, I'm doing this. Like I didn't have much to lose. So
let me add a caveat real quick.
I like it.
You have two levels of normal entrepreneurship, or what I call, I don't even really like entrepreneurship anymore, right? I like leverage.
Mm-hmm.
You have influencers who are getting millions of subscribers on YouTube. They're making millions of dollars on doing like promotional videos by big brands that are trying to reach your targeted audience. Those people are not entrepreneurs, bro. They are content creators that are actually telling a story. They don't know about like having employees. They hire people to come in and video them. They hire people on contractors to be editors. They're not entrepreneurs, right? People who are investing, like Warren Buffett, is not an entrepreneur, right? He is a leverager. He leverages money, and he's a shark. He'll give you his money, but he's going to take a bite out of your business, right?
Yeah,
so people don't understand that I want to create leverage. But there's two types of fear, right? The one is called pre-fear, right? This is like all these things that could go wrong. I'm gonna lose all my friends. I don't have enough money. It's excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. But if you get blessed enough to jump off that mountain, right? And you land on your feet like a cat and you start climbing up the next big one and you get to like what I call level 2, right? Then where all your bills are covered, all of your expenses are paid. You got maybe some money in the bank, 50, 100 grand in the bank, and you don't need to work really hard. Why elevate? My people I love are getting paid. I'm doing business. I'm making money. I got a little cash flow. Why grow, right? And so actually for me, the hardest person for me to actually convey isn't the newbie who wants to jump off the cliff. It's the person that maybe does $1 million, $2 million in business, wants to grow consciously, but subconsciously is scared to death to lose what they actually did create, even though they go to every freaking event, every Gary Vee event, every Tony Robbins event, every Brian Tracy event, every Jim Rohn event in the world, and meet all these 50 million, 200 million, $20 billion company owners, and they want to be like them. They spend all this money on coaching and everything else, but they won't change a thing. Those are the actual people that stand still and actually end up imploding, right? If you're not growing mentally, emotionally, empathetically, having perspective on the customer experience at all time. I mean, like, bro, people think I'm crazy because I'm giving away my mentor program, my ebooks, my classes, some Zoom trainings. I do TikTok lives, and people try to schedule with me, and I talk to them, and they're like, bro, you're crazy. Why are you doing all this for free? Because I want you to get to that level 2. And then by that time, I've been in your face for 3, 4, 5 years, and you'll trust me enough to push you off the next mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude.
So where you're at in your business right now is probably a lot more scarier for you than it ever has been, because you feel like you can't afford to make the wrong move because of the friends and the families and the mouths to eat and everything else. And you have to be a lot more conscious about the next move. And when you first jumped in, you're like, I got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the combination of the two, because I am in business, I'm very risky, and it's paid off for me very well because, I'll take the chances that most people won't. But when you pair that with the fact that, my niece is looking over at me like, all right, Uncle Bob, you're also the business owner over here. And I'm like, oh shit, I better be careful. But at the same time, I know you got to take chances to build the business, and you got to do things. So it's fun, man. It's extremely fun because I'm a thrill seeker at the same time, because, I'm secure. I've been spending the last 2-3 years trying to creating income outside of my main business to pay for my own personal expenses so that I wasn't continuing to pull from my main business.
Okay, your audience needs to remember that. Can you say that again? Say that again.
So I've spent the last few years creating income outside of my main business that pays for my personal expenses so that I'm not pulling it from my main business.
Do you know that 38% of business owners that fail in this world is because they kill their business financially. They drain the swamp. If their business makes 10 grand and they only need 1,500 to live, somehow they spend 8 grand.
Yep.
And they got to take the other 2,000 for next month's bills. And then they all of these different rhetoric things. As the business grows, their spending habits grow. Oh, that Louis Vuitton bag, I earned it. I earned that shit.
Yeah, I earned it. I deserve it. I deserve it.
Oh my God, that drives me nuts. A business is a baby. Okay. Instead of formula, your business's food is profit. Okay. And as it gets older and as it matures, some business takes 10 years to start to maturing. Some businesses mature right away, right? But you start needing other types of babysitters and teachers and nurturers and everything else to be able to take care of other spots so that you can be the creative one living in the clouds in the 60,000 square foot heights. But those who take the least from their business and give the most to it are the ones who end up living the freest, that can actually sustain that instant gratification for 5 to 10 years. Those are the ones that will be able to hire those Ivy League, Harvard graduates everyone talks about all the time, because you've developed that. Now you have somebody who's 5, 10, 20 times smarter than you in marketing, in sales, in branding, in
people that specialize in that, whether they have a degree or not, they specialize in this.
They're passionate. They're passionate. They're passionate. Like, dude, I'm obsessed with marketing and sales, but when it comes to sales, I'm 20 times more passionate about sales than I am about marketing. Right? Yeah. That's my forte. I never need to hire a CSO for my company because no one's going to run the culture of a sales team better than me. No one is. Right? I don't care how big I am. I don't need a CSO. No, I don't mind doing the sales meetings. I don't mind mentoring and training the salespeople. That's my passion. That's my juice, right? I always have time for that, okay? But as a marketing guy, I love marketing and branding, but not nearly as much. And so I have marketing people and I have branding people. I'm passionate about it. And so I'm going to definitely give my 2 cents. But I'm always make sure I leave the table open and the culture comfort for my team to rip apart my ideas and to let the team rip apart other teammates' ideas as well. Because I'm not going to get from where I want to be on my own back. I need other genius backs to help me and rip apart my stuff. I'm not going to hire genius people for me to tell them what to do. I hire genius people so that they can tell me what I'm doing. Right? Rip apart my shit. Okay. Yep. When I went to the Gary Vee with you and we sat there and we got like pitch. I didn't buy not one product. I was like, whatever. I could sell better than all those dudes that are trying to pitch on stage. So I'm like, oh, whatever. But then when Gary came on stage, you know, he saw me with my pen and paper, branding, took notes, post 60 times a day, post them on these platforms. If you're not using TikTok, you're stupid. And bam, within 3 months of not having a TikTok at all to using TikTok, I'm almost at 500,000 followers on my TikTok, just being my authentic self. I didn't know shit about branding, so I just took advice. And all the hard thing I have to do is just you do the playbook.
Yep. I love it too, man, because before we press record on this, you know, I jokingly said to you that you did your fucking homework after the event. Like you're the kid in school that actually did all the homework. No, it's fucking badass though to watch what you did, you know, just took what you were told, like what he gave as prescription for success. What was really cool about what you said too, is like, we did have all these people come on stage and try to pitch us something. When I don't know if you remember this or not, there was a guy who was running a barber school out of like Philly or something like that, right? He said to Gary, because they did mention Gary's like GVX, the Gary Vee experience thing. And he said, I'm going to do the GVX thing to Gary. Gary's like, no, don't do it. I don't like where your economics are at yet. Wait, don't do it yet. Like that shit hit home for me, man. I'm like, this dude is selling this, but won't sell it to the person that he doesn't believe is the right fit for it. And that shit, like, it means something. So when you're selling something like that, like there's value that comes along with that. That was a huge thing that you got from the GVX thing. But you're right, man. He's giving out this value because he understands the attention that we were talking about before. He also understands that like people deserve to know this shit. Like, people need to know what he's preaching and what he's pitching, because there's far too many fucking unhappy people out here. And that's at the end of the day, that's what we should be talking about, you know?
Yeah. What percentage of people do you think love their job?
Fucking 7%.
It's less than 10. It's been scientifically documented from the University of Harvard that these economical students put together an analysis of over 100,000 different people from over 170 different industries, and they got over a 90% rate of dissatisfaction. And the biggest, they had actually, like, there was 10 things that every person wanted to have as an employee, right? And money was on that list. But what if I told you that that was the 10th thing on the list? It was the last thing they talked about, you know? And so a lot of these companies, especially these Gen X baby boomer companies that run these, what I call hot box shops and everything else, where it's like all IQ and no EQ mentality, all what have you done for me lately, and no empathy at all culture. Like, bro, then they're realizing, like, okay, these millennials, they got the stuff that we need, but they're not sticking around.
Fuck no.
Why aren't they sticking around? What can I do to get them? Yo, the FBI is having a problem right now hiring hackers because of their drug policies and all the other stuff on there and everything else they're doing, right? The government is hiring the dumbest employees in the world because they have commoditized BS degrees, right? These, either you have to evolve or you die, right? Yeah. And so why would I want to be great at something that I hate, knowing that I could fail at something that I don't want to do?
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And so that scared me more than sleeping in my car.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that you say that too, because we have to evolve. I remember when I was first like bringing on some sales team members, in the very beginning, one of the first kids I hired outside of like my family, because my brother's my sales manager and he kills it. But my was my buddy Mike. You actually met him at the Gary Vee event at the dinner. Yeah. When I met Mike, I knew right away this kid was super ambitious. There was no way in this world like he was going to stay with me forever. I can fight that or I can embrace it. So I told him, I said, listen, man, you come in, you do, you know, what I'm asking you to do. I will help you as much as I possibly can get you to where you want to go with your other stuff. 100%. I will embrace it. I will empower it, and we'll work together to get you there. And I've got two more guys right now. They're
beautiful.
Yeah. They're two. I mean, because we got to evolve too. We have to evolve as employers to know that like people, they have bigger aspirations than some of these positions. So embrace that. Like I've got guys right now, these two kids, they're project managers, they're brothers. They're extremely motivated, hardworking guys. I know that, you know, eventually they're going to go somewhere else. I can't wait for that. I mean, I encourage that. I'm happy for them when that happens. Like far too many people just expect people to come in, work for them, care as much as they do without explaining the why, without them understanding what the true culture is. Why are we doing this in the first place? Because like you said earlier, that business owner, right, is the guy who's trying to worry about how much money he can take from the business and put into his pocket, which is the very last thing that I think about. I think about how much money can I pump into this business? Because for every dollar that I pump back into the business, that's another dollar I can spend on invest in growing in the business, investing in a new position for the business that's going to better specialize in the marketing like you're talking about. And I'll tell you, like, you can't do that unless you love what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish. So when you have this mentality that you can't wait for the weekend, man, I fucking like pity those people, man. It breaks my fucking heart. It honestly does. Because even when I used to work for Walmart, but when I worked at Walmart, bro, like, fuck that. I was working for Bobby Jones. I was the president and CEO of my own personal my personal services corporation. And I was at the fucking top of that business, and Walmart hired my company. Like, that's how I felt. Like, I felt like that. And going back to what you said before we recorded, like the impression that I left on people to this day, those relationships come back to my business today because of the way I treated people then, because of how, like, That stuff follows me, but people don't realize that they treat people like shit in a job that they hate and think that when they start their business 5 years later, those people aren't going to remember you. Like, I remember you treated me like shit when you were working over here. You think I'm going to come support your business now? Right? It's crazy to think about that, but it stays. That impression lasts a lifetime, man. It just does.
It's called an anchor.
Yeah.
An anchor, right? That's one of the things why when I go to big events, I always try to get together with 4 or 5, 6 people. Dude, I've gotten together with 20 people at a different event. And we went to a nice restaurant. I'm talking to everybody. They're talking to me. And then everyone's waiting for the check, and it ain't there.
Yeah.
It ain't there because I already got the check. Don't worry about it. You blessed me with the potential relationship. Even if nothing else happens, I blessed you more than you blessed me. And so I'm remembered in you. Now when you see me on social media, you see me, oh, that's the dude that bought me lunch. That bought me dinner. I didn't even ask him to buy me dinner. You know what I mean? He just like, I don't even know this dude and just bought me $100 dinner.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And you know, I do that because branding is the personal brand is so important as well.
Yep.
You know, but to get back to what you were just talking about with your sales manager or your guy or whatever, that has higher aspirations than just being a W-2 employee working for you, even regardless of your culture, regardless of your environment, they have bigger aspirations, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I've done that maybe you want to consider in the future, right, is not only helping them, but and also like guiding them and everything else, but getting a piece of their business and helping them avoid those death traps, right? So I have a digital marketing, branding, content creating team, right? They were doing all of my content and posting it all out. We were getting all like sent up 30 days in advance. So I would know on Hootsuite what I would post in 3 weeks from now, right, on Instagram. And we would have pillar content turn into micro content, just the way Gary talked about. And these kids got comfortable. They weren't trying to hire any more employees for their company. They weren't trying to get new business. They were happy with what I was paying them starting their business. So guess what I did? I fired.
I was gonna say you bought them.
But I fired them, but I didn't fire them with the intent to punish them or whatever. I had to push them in a direction where they really wanted to go and then have an opportunity to spend. So I fired them, but I gave them another month of payment, but I demanded they don't do any work. Okay? We're done. Focus on your business. Focus on how you're going to get clients. Then I want you to bring your pitch to me. I want you to tell me how you're going to generate business. And if it's great, I will evaluate your business and give you an investment opportunity to own a piece of your company. But they would have never done that. They were just so subconsciously used to the monotonous W-2 working for paycheck hours like mentality. I even let them use a piece of my office. I have like 7 offices in my building right here that I own. And they can still use it. So since then, they've like hired 3 different positions. They created 7 different content packages. They built their own website now. They're doing YouTube videos. They're building content for themselves. I mean, you can't be a content creator and not have any content and say I'm a content creator. That ain't gonna work, right?
Right.
And so I let them use my office, all my equipment, whatever they needed, do interviews, all of that stuff. And then I told them, hey, if it looks good, I'll invest 50 grand into it. But just know, you know, I'm going to be on the board and running the show. And we're still going to add my brand to part of the service, right? My brand's still going to pay you, right? But, you know, I had some push. So also try to find ways if the person has got the great characteristics, the great ambition to do a great job for you, you know, you being there and investing in their business and getting a piece of it, also helping them mentor and hold them accountable to the success that you achieved for themselves.
Yep. 100%. Mike is actually a partner in the Master Networks company that I mentioned earlier. So him and I own this region together, and that basically almost the same idea that you're talking about. We just, you know, connected, created that together. So I like that. And I will take some of that with me because there have been other opportunities that I didn't capitalize on that I'll you know, pay closer attention to. See, this is what it's all about for me, Rob. Like I when I started this podcast, I made it very clear. I put together an intro video for my YouTube channel. I wanted people to know, like, I don't know it all. You know what I mean? Like I'm learning with my audience every single week through my guests. If I teach my guests something great, that's cool too, because my audience is listening. And if I learn along the way, then everybody benefits as well, man. And that's what it's all about. We're hitting about the 50-minute mark, something like that. So I want to get wrapped up. We'll probably do a part 2 to this sometime, Rob. Maybe even do a live too, because I think it could be cool to get some interaction with some people on here as well.
Yeah,
What I want you to do, man, is tell everybody where they can follow you, where they can hit you up. I got it scrolling across the screen, but if you want to add to that, you just want to reiterate it. The other thing is this does go on an audio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so they won't see this.
Yeah. So you could, if you go to my Instagram page, it's just at rob.sharkey. That's all it is, right? I actually have a link tree added to my my Instagram post, and it's got all my podcasts, my website, my courses, my ebooks, all of those things right there. 100% of it is 100% free of charge. Okay. I want to give as much value for free on actionable content that will benefit your life positively, because the average person that's my age, or Bobby, your age and everything else, or even some younger guys, 5-10 years younger than us, they were sold a book of goods, and now they're being punished with all this debt. They're being punished with all these crappy incomes, and we had a balance. We got to create that balance, and so I want to be able to make sure they have that. My Instagram, again, it's just rob.sharkey, real easy. Lifepreneur is my YouTube channel, and Reality Check 2020 is my TikTok channel with almost 450,000 followers in 3 months. Thanks to Gary Vee. I'll give him the massive credit on that, because if it wasn't for him giving me the awareness of it, I would have no followers at all, almost on any of these platforms.
Yep.
So I give credit too.
You've been killing it on TikTok, that's for sure, man. And your content is just dope. And I kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, like people forget, or people think, because we've grown up watching all this TV and this scripted interview, like all this like made up shit, these actors on TVs, actors on the other side of the camera, that you can't just be your authentic actual self on camera. Not only can you be, you have to be, because the people on the other side of that camera are going to know it. So that's what I really like about your content, man. You get on there, you spit it real, and you don't give a fuck what other people think by way of any negative feedback or anybody that's trying to hate on you. You don't give a fuck about that, because you know that you're bringing value to other people. I
actually love trolls. Okay. Let me just tell you the secret to TikTok. Okay. The secret to TikTok is troll interaction.
Welcome to trolls.
Don't get troll interaction. Your video going viral on TikTok is almost zero. Okay. My one video that has 11 million views on it, I actually try to do things to get trolls to find things wrong with it, just so it pushes more watch time and engagement. Because while they're commenting on my video is playing. While they're commenting on other people's comments, the video is playing, and that watch time is what makes the video go viral. If I try to see, the thing is, as a salesperson, they always wanted to teach me to appease this person, match and mirror this person, and all of the bullshit, right? I'm not trying to sell my content and my value to everybody in the world who needs it. I'm trying to sell my value to everybody in the world who needs it, that thinks the way I think and believe in what I believe in, and have as my core values and beliefs. If you have that stuff combined and you need help, reach out to me. I'll help you. I don't believe in sugarcoating. I don't believe in trying to tell you that, or trying to hold the tongue and say, hey, your zipper's down and your dick is out, and I'm not going to tell you and just let you walk around and make a fool of yourself. I'm going to be that friend that says, bro, check your mid, bro, right? I'm the one that, because I actually do care about you, I'm the one that's going to tell you the honest truth. I'm not going to enable you.
Right.
And so we have to get rid of that. But if you want to go viral on any platform at all, you got to put something on there that trolls are going to want to chew on, because it's not viral without it.
Brilliant. I freaking love that troll interaction. I like that a lot. I've actually used the a similar example as to what you just talked about with the zipper down, but not quite that one, but I'll use that one moving forward because it is like, that's the thing. Like if you've seen somebody walking around with like shit on their face, you would say it, right? Why aren't you speaking up when people are, oh man, it's crazy. We could talk all day about what people like, what we're seeing. That just is so sad because we should be getting corrected. We should be able to see and learn and understand. The problem is most people are so resistant to the correction that when you do it, they're like taking offense to it, where we should have this adopted mindset that we want to learn and improve at all times, regardless, and people just don't have that. So
remember one phrase, okay? I made this phrase up. I live by it. It's whatever. Ego ears equals a deaf brain.
Ego ears equals a deaf brain. I'm writing it down, bro. I wrote down troll interaction too. Ego ears.
Ego ears equals a deaf brain. Ego is not who you are. It's who you want people to believe who you are. Yeah. And when people are trying to give you constructive criticism that contradicts who you're trying to portray, ego ears turns on, perspective turns off, and thus the brain goes dead. Yeah. And so if you have an ego rather than what I call a empathy with perspective filter, right? And so there's three types of information. There's bullshit fluff information that doesn't benefit you at all. There's future actionable information, which means I can use this when my company does $1 billion in revenue a year, but I can't use it right now, right? So I store it for later, right? And then the third one is the one I focus on, which is called actionable content. Things that you can actually use right now in the playbook, like what Gary gave me, 6 months ago on, at that event for social media, that I took all the other content. I had empathy with perspective, but I had my filters like, okay, this is bullshit content. It goes right to the sewer. Boom. I don't store it at all. Okay, this is actionable content. Bam, pen, paper, recording, camera, all this stuff. Map it. Okay, implement it. And then, when I have the direction, all I gotta do is follow it, right? And so you have ego ears, right? And you'll have somebody that you're trying to talk to or reprimand a little bit and get it on, but like, bro, check your ego ears.
Yeah.
I'm not degrading you. I'm not belittling you. I'm not humiliating you. I'm trying to help you grow outside of the stupid ego that you got.
Right.
And how they react. Basically, if I ever had an employee, based on how I tell them that, based on how they react, dictates whether I keep them or not.
Right.
And I don't have time at all to be babysitting and trying to correct you. I don't care if you're the #1 world's best salesman. If I can't communicate with you with the ego ears only, I don't need you. I don't care if you're gonna make me millions of dollars.
Yep. That's it, man. There's no way that somebody else's way can't be better. So if you know that, I can't remember who said it or what the saying is exactly, but there's a saying where it's like, it's not what you don't know, it's what you know to be true that isn't true at all that hurts you. Right? It's like that's the shit we just run with. When we fucking really believe that what we know is true, that's when you get like, you're having a sports conversation and be like, no, it was 1986 that they won a champ. I know for a fact I was there. Like when and then you get fact checked like 2 minutes later, you're like, oh shit, I thought it was 83. But look at all the enthusiasm and energy you just put into your belief because you believe for 100% fact that you were right. But when you get, and it's like, just understand that you're not right all the time and it's okay. Welcome that.
Wow, that's what we're doing now, right? If you are a Republican Trump supporter, you're either a black Uncle Tom or you're a white supremacist, KKK, or you're whatever. And if you are voting for Joe Biden, you're either a victim, you're oppressed, or you're a sex offender, right? I mean, and people believe this to the core because of the media propaganda. If they're not willing to have perspective with empathy and go, wait a minute. Yeah. Just because this guy likes the policies of Donald Trump doesn't make him a racist, right, or a supremacist, or likes little girls or any of that other stuff, right? And vice versa, right? But if that's the rhetoric, because I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I feel our generation, even though we have all this accessibility to information and technology that because we have access to it so easily that people just don't want it. They'll just take whatever they hear and they will run with it.
Yep.
You know?
Yep,
And
that's
so
exactly it. Because why? Because challenging it's harder. Because challenging the norm and challenging the thoughts and the ideas that are being pushed on you, that's against the grain, right? And so they just go with it. And when the majority feels a certain way because the majority are sheep, then they just agree with it. You know, it's hard because obviously there's my political beliefs never make their way onto to my podcast because I let everybody, everybody's their own person can make their own decisions. That's for damn sure. But I always related to like the sports thing, man. I go back to sports all the time because I'm a big Eagles fan, right? So people like me and the Dallas Cowboys fans, we really don't get along too well, especially in this area. But I go out to Dallas, man. I go out to Dallas all the time, and those Dallas Cowboys fans are cool as hell because it's not the same thing. It's not the same belief that they get out here when they're battling back and forth. So it's an adjusted mindset that is just it's crazy. It's something that people are afraid to adjust, man. And that's what it all comes back down to change, man. People are afraid of change. They just are.
One other thing that you did subconsciously. Question everything.
Yep.
Question everything. Don't ever accept anything as truth. Question your beliefs, question your mindset, question the information someone's telling you, fact check it. You know what I mean? Yep. Like I always question, and that's honestly been one of the biggest keys of my success, right? Where's the money going to be in 5 years from now? Right? Yep. We went from the industrial age to the information age, but college is still focusing on the industrial.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I say college is obsolete. I'll debate anybody in the world who wants to debate me on how telling me having a degree in college makes somebody financially better off. Show me. I would love to see it.
I mean, I think 100% what you're pushing is definitely the immediate future. I think that unfortunately there are plenty of companies and places that are too traditional, too stuck in their old ways, don't know to challenge the traditions. They're just too busy saying this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to do it. And for those people, they're going to continue to require the degrees, and they'll fall by the wayside eventually. But I think at the present, there's still opportunity. Well, I don't want to say opportunity. I want to say that there's still validity to some degrees, only because people aren't catching on. They're not understanding in those positions. So
when I actually talk to people, I'm like, well, what about this company? They only hire people with degrees.
It'll change.
You know what I tell them? Kodak didn't evolve fast enough either.
Yep. Blockbuster. Yep.
What happened to Kodak? What happened to Blockbuster? Right? What happened to Barnes and Noble? Right? These companies, just because I'm saying it and you're not seeing it, doesn't mean it's not going to be the future.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It is. And that's the thing. People got to do it now because that is the future. I mean, our school system in general is so outdated at this point anyway. It's all based off of memorizing information. Like,
we're not even giving kids F's anymore in school. And the trophy for 9th place is the same size as 1st place.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Rob, you and I could talk about this shit all day, my friend, and we would. I'm going to let you go because I know you got some other shit to get to, but I really appreciate you jumping on this podcast with me. We will definitely do an episode 12.A or something like that for a second episode with you. But it was an absolute blast having you on. Again, thank you much. And if you've got anything just closing that you want to deliver to my audience, man, go ahead and shut it down for us both.
The only thing I want people to do is to get to living free status. I don't care what it is, if it's $1,500, but the only thing that I can really tell people is to maintain a minimum lifestyle, stack your cash, don't gamble with it, invest like a vulture, right? Don't try to kill an investment, eat one that's already dead, okay? And then the last thing I tell you is get the living free status. And for the love of God, leave a legacy that you actually want to leave the footprint on this world. Make it happen. You have something to offer this world. I don't know what it is. Only you know what it is. But don't die having it kept within you. Share it. We need to evolve. Thank you.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to episode 12 of the Extra Mile podcast. Be sure to follow Rob on his social media and check out Life of Noor. It's dope. It's free. Tons of value back there, guys. Don't miss out on that. And tune in next time for episode 13. Thanks, guys.